Welcome everybody to our Leaders in Housing Counseling call, second call in April. Glad to have you on, and we're going to have another deep dive into our exploration around affordable housing and innovations in our housing counseling field. So what our plan is for today is we're going to cover the legislative work Melody has been doing. We've had some really valuable conversations with many of you and your House and Senate members. This has been really, I think, a much more impactful move on in Congress, and I'm encouraged by kind of what our early signs are. So this will be very helpful. I want to bring you all up to date about what's happening and what needs to happen going forward. We're going to do a quick HCO update. I think we've circulated about this, but just wanted to make sure that everybody understood the nuances of what this means, and if you're an HCO user, how you might think about all this, because there's a lot at stake here. But the good news is that there's been an extension to October 31st, but there's some things that all of us should be aware of about the pluses and minuses of that. And then we're going to spend the bulk of the call on this innovative program that a number of organizations are doing around the country, getting academic programs, either high school or college, to actually build houses that can then be used in affordable housing programs. Pretty interesting stuff, and it's a model that is replicable in other localities. And we'll do a whole discussion around that. There'll be room for your questions and answers, so please put your stuff into the chat box, and Melody will, once the presentations are done, we'll walk through some of the most the broadest questions and try to get them addressed. We'll do a quick talk about Pictures Worth 1,000 Words, Ellie's project about having good pictures of our work that can represent our work without having to have many words to it. And thank you so much for all the groups that have contributed so far. We're building up an inventory, but there's still room for you to contribute. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll do a plug on NHRC membership, and then we'll have our next call on Thursday in May, first Thursday in May. So with that quick note, let's pivot to the legislative update. Melody.
Thank you, Bruce. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our presentation today. In terms of legislative updates, NHRC has been very busy since both the House and Senate Appropriations Subcommittees closed requests for appropriations requests from different members on April 4th. Since then, we've been focusing our efforts on specifically the subcommittee members of the House and Senate THUD, Transportation and HUD Subcommittee, of the larger appropriations committees, essentially trying to make the case for housing counseling. Thank you again to everyone who signed on to our national sign-on letter, asking members of the appropriations committees to increase funding for housing counseling to $65 million. As I said in our previous presentation, we've had several members sign on to Dear Colleague letters encouraging their chamber members to support the program's increase or funding. So housing counseling is being brought to the attention of these members. We're trying to keep it on their agendas, moving into subcommittee markup, which will start sometime in mid to late May. Currently, Congress is in recess until May 1st, so they've all returned to their home districts and their states. And we're hoping that we can reach out to THUD members during this time, potentially to have conference calls with state groups and agencies in their districts and states, potentially in-district meetings, tours of housing counseling agencies, seeing the work that they do up close and in person. We've already started this effort with a few senators, and we're continuing it with House members as well. Just this week, we've had 3 very great calls. We had a call with Maine groups and agencies and community action agencies with the appropriations staff of Senator Collins, who is the chairwoman of the THUD subcommittee in the Senate. Really, really good call. Those groups were excellent and very engaged, and we plan to continue that conversation in the upcoming weeks. We had an amazing call with Hawaii groups with Senator Schatz, who is also a member on the Democrat side of the THUD subcommittee in the Senate. Senator Schatz is very supportive of housing counseling. He submitted his own letter of support for the program with increased funding, and he signed on to the Dear Colleague letter that was circulated by Senator Menendez from New Jersey, asking peers to support the program. So we're really excited about that, and we'll be working closely with Senator Schatz moving forward. We also had conversations with Arkansas groups, speaking to the appropriations staffer from Senator Boozman's office, the Republican from Arkansas, who is on THUD. So NHRC is having these conversations. We're really excited about working with groups in these states. We plan to continue these conversations going forward and moving into the House. Our focus definitely is trying to get Republican support, particularly in the Senate. We have strong support right now in the House with Representative Price, who's chair of House THUD, as well as the ranking member Diaz-Ballard, from Florida. But we definitely need Republican support in the House if we want to ensure that the number during conference stays at 65 when they have people on both sides of the aisle in both chambers supporting the program at that level. Some conversations we hope to have in the upcoming days is with other Republican senators. The three in particular, by recommendations from staff in our conversations in the Senate: Senator Alexander from Tennessee, Senator Blunt from Missouri, and Senator Todd Young from Indiana. All three have a background and interest in housing in their respective states. In particular, Senator Young, who, although he is not on the Appropriations Subcommittee at all, he has been a more nationally recognized advocate of affordable housing on the Republican side, and he's had great conversations with a lot of state groups and national organizations around affordable housing, and I believe NeighborWorks as well. So we hope to just have conversations with these three members. If anyone on the call is from the states of Tennessee, Missouri, or Indiana, and you would like to help our efforts to reach out to these members or other members in Senator House THUD, please reach out to me. I will send my email address following the call. But yes, we would appreciate anyone's help. Any sort of data you have or talking points around the success and impact of housing counseling in your state would be greatly appreciated, and it will definitely help us make the case. But those are some of the efforts that we're trying to do ahead of markup, and we will keep everyone in the network and all of our members posted as we move forward into the appropriations process this spring. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Bruce.
So I should just say that, Melody and I are pretty good at what we do, but it is a completely different conversation when local groups talk about what's happening in your counties, in your state, and what your experience is, and what the impact on clients is, what the impact of your work is on, and the funding levels, and how that affects your ability to work with people on pre-purchase, on foreclosure, on reverse mortgage, on whatever your local programs are. It's that really carries the day. It was terrific to hear these main groups talk in great detail about the struggles they have got. It was a deep and relevant conversation from the Arkansas groups. Hawaii groups had their own unique perspective, all of them saying, we are under tremendous pressure because of the decrease in housing counseling funding. And that's what gets across here. I mean, we're a good idea, but if it's constituents from the district, it's suddenly relevant retail politics that are responsive. And we've done a lot right this year to kind of mobilize on paper with letters and things like that. But it turns out these conversations are really where we have the biggest impact. So if you get a email or call from Melody or me, please, all these calls have happened on very short notice, sometimes just 24 hours. It's when you get the appointment, you want to scramble and have people join you. You're doing this for your organization, but you're doing it for all of us as well, because we have to bring along enough, especially in the Senate, Republican votes in committee to get a much better number in the budget. And right now, to say a quick shout out to the main groups, because they not only scrambled and really did a great presentation, but they're now putting together a joint letter or report of their performance numbers in from all the organizations, so that it can be really documented for Susan Collins about their performance. Susan Collins can bless a much higher housing counseling number. She's the head of the subcommittee. That makes all the difference. So, and anyways, I think as Melody mentioned, there's an opportunity. House and Senate people are in district right now. If you have ability to go to any of those meetings and jump up and say, thanks for all the support you've given in the past for housing counseling, and I know there's a push to get $65 million into this year's budget. So be specific. You want to ask for what you want, and so $65 million in this year's HUD housing counseling assistance budget line item. That matters. That's how it all works. So thanks everybody for all their support. So let's move on quickly. So we put on this HCO update, Home Counselor Online update. This is actually just the wording of what Fannie Mae put out on their notice, and the reason usually we would have summarized and done it all, but I think this actually is kind of the critical things to be aware of. So the first is that they've extended the retirement date till October 31st, 2019, and the reason turns out, I think our advocacy was good, but and others did some advocacy around this as well, especially HUD. But the critical threshold issue was that the device that transferred, the program that transferred data from HCO to other programs didn't work well. And so only the first two organizations were only onboarded this week, so it was going to be impossible to imagine to reach the deadline in time for the May 31st deadline. So there will be more opportunities for groups to do the download of the HCO data. And they're going to continue to try to transfer people to Launchpad, but it's really up to you about which organization, which provider you want to go to. One of the reason this was pressurized is that the platform that HCO is based on is no longer being supported by the provider. So there's always some risk that there's some glitch or something. So the other point is to really try to save your data and capture it regularly, so that you're not caught in the lurch if there's some systemic problem, and that it's really in your interest to try to identify and establish a relationship and start working with a new provider now, rather than waiting through the end of the contract year. So if maybe after the first 2 quarters, if you're in place and can move the next 2 quarters someplace else, that would be probably the safest move. But the idea is that not to wait to the last moment here, because there is some risk with the platform as we understand it. So just want to make sure everybody understood that the extension doesn't really, it's more in your organizational interest to try to solve the problem of where you go next now, rather than waiting to further in the year. Good. Okay, with that note, let's shift over to the feature presentation, and I'm going to hand it over to Ellie Pepper, who's done some work with a number of groups here to bring this together. Ellie.
Thanks, Bruce. Hi, everybody. So, there's been a lot of talk about different markets having problem with neighborhood blight and with a lack of affordable housing and a definite shortage of skilled labor. And I think that, I've been hearing recently that there's even some issues with the price of materials really going through the roof. So, we reached out to some groups that seem to be doing some interesting things to deal with how to build affordable housing in a way that could be done with different types of funding and different resources. So we have 3 groups who are going to talk about academic programs that they're using to help build affordable housing. And our first group is Salisbury Neighborhood Housing Services. We have Cheryl Meadows, the executive director, and Amanda Smith, the marketing officer, and they're going to give us a quick review about the work that they're doing with the local high school career technology education program. So Cheryl and Amanda, take it away.
This is Melody. Cheryl, would you like to control your slides, or you want me to?
I think Amanda is going to take the lead on that.
If you want to control it and I'll just talk, that's fine, Melody.
Yep.
All right.
So thank you, Melody and Ellie and Bruce, for having us on the call. We are Salisbury Neighborhood Housing Services. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, part of the NeighborWorks network, and we're located in Maryland on the Eastern Shore. And we offer a variety of services from home buyers education, budget and credit counseling, foreclosure counseling. We also facilitate grants through the city and through the county. And then we have a variety of loan products, so rehab loans, down payment, closing cost loans, to name a few. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit about what we do. And then in particular, the reason for this call is we have a new construction partnership with a local high school who operates a career technology education program. And it is high school students, and they utilize the electricity program, masonry, construction, and HVAC classes to come together and build this house. The program has existed for quite a while, but our partnership started in 2000, and we typically have, or we always have them build 1 home a year. So we've built 15 homes. I think there was a year or 2 that we took off. But it originally started because we were contacted by the Board of Education. They needed someone to help finish building the home, to pay for building the home, because whomever was had signed the contract to have the house constructed backed out. So it worked out in our favor because we still continued it to this day, and it enables us to have homes built at a low cost and increase the home ownership opportunities in our target neighborhoods. The funding comes from board designated funds, and it covers the cost of materials. The students provide the labor, so that's at no cost to us. And then we also pay the Board of Ed a 15% administration fee. So we do not financially benefit from this in most cases, because by the time we pay for the materials and what we end up selling the house for, we about break even. However, there are times where we have made a bit of money off of these homes. And then we also have received grants in the past for things like landscaping. And then you'll see in the next coming slides that we've received money to do some demolition of homes. So these photos, oops, to go back one, Melody. Okay, the blue house on the left hand was the most recent house that our students built. And then that right hand photo on the top level is the kitchen. So you can see how nice these homes are. They're stick built. The students do everything in the house. And then the bottom row are just various stages of the process. The blue one in particular is going for $149. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. And sometimes we're able to establish a buyer before the home is moved to the permanent foundation, and they can pick the colors and kind of make the house their own. Go to the next one. And then these are more photos of the home. And then the bottom one is where they're moving the home. So it's built on school property by the students, and then it's moved to a property that we own and put on a permanent foundation. So some benefits of this program: it reduces neighborhood blight, it increases homeownership opportunities in our target communities, and then it also adds to the revitalization efforts of the city. And these houses are affordable, they're brand new, and the students, what's nice for them is that they're able to learn a trade that could become their career, which is in high demand now. But those two photos, this is Rose Street in particular. The homes on the left are what it used to look like, and then the homes on the right are after. We were able to purchase, I believe, Cheryl, 10 or 11 properties on that street.
Yeah, there were 11 properties that we demolished with assistance from a redevelopment ready grant through the state of Maryland. And we re-subdivided those 11 lots into 9 lots. So the lots would be a little bit bigger to accommodate these houses. They're about 1,200 square feet.
And through purchasing these homes, the residents are required to take our homebuyer education class, which are taught by our housing counselors. And from what I understand, I believe there's 22, I think, in the state of Maryland. And our two counselors are HUD accredited, are the only ones on the Eastern Shore. So what we do is very important to this area because we offer one of the only HUD accredited class that applies to our loans, our programs, and then also some of the local mortgage lenders require them to be able to get approved for their loans. We also, after the purchase of the home, we can work with the clients on housing counseling as far as post-purchase goes. So that's another reason why, our housing counselors are important here. These photos are just some more of what the neighborhood used to look like. And interesting enough, the first house on the top, we worked with the local fire department, and they were able to use that for training. And then the other photo of the students were the local university, and they went through before the demolition to kind of make our revitalization efforts a big deal. They painted murals on the houses and things like that. Okay. So if you're looking to start a similar program, some of the obstacles that we faced were there's a limited number of lots the houses can be moved to because of the narrow city streets and the presence of power lines. Also, I was told yesterday that you have to raise the traffic lights, which is very interesting to me. I would not have thought to think of that, but we also run into instances where we had to run power lines to the house from the street, and then we also would have to get a variance on the property because the placement of the house didn't meet the setback requirements. And so things you can think about is where will funding come from for the materials, purchasing the property once the house is moved. Once you move the house, the water and sewer hookup needs to be done, the well and septic, sometimes for the county, electric and plumbing hookup, HVAC unit. At least in our cases, these are costs that are incurred after moving the home. And then fencing and landscaping. And who will complete the job? So some, if it's the high school students, can they do everything? Do you need someone to come in after the fact, lay the permanent foundation? Those are definitely things to think about. And then our last slide. How long will it take? So these students only have a few hours a day to work on the house, and it takes them an entire year to build one home. It's 1 story, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. And like I said, the students do everything. And then can it be built on site, or does it have to be moved to the property? And in some cases, if you live in a city, you're going to have really narrow streets, whereas we have some city narrow streets, but then we also have a big rural area. And does the lot need to be cleared? Also, can the students work on site? Are there insurance parameters that would allow them to go to the site and work on the home? And lastly, who will sell the home? Do you work with a realtor, or does the organization themselves list and sell the home? But in a nutshell, that's kind of our program and what we do. That's all we have.
Okay, thanks so much. I do want to, Melody, if you don't mind, I did want to just jump in with one question because you mentioned insurance, and somebody did ask about who bears the burden of liability using students. So if you could elaborate just a little bit more about the insurance parameters.
This is Cheryl. We have to take out a builder's risk policy for the house while it sits on the school property. In our case, the students are not allowed to leave the school grounds, so the house has to be built on site there. Once the house is moved, then we convert it to just a regular vacant property insurance policy.
Okay,
And
thanks.
that's very expensive. The vacant the vacant property insurance is very expensive.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We're going to move now to David Hazelwood, who is the Chief Operating Officer with NeighborWorks Home Solutions in Iowa and Nebraska. He's going to highlight their partnership with the Iowa Western Community College Construction Technology Program. David, take it away.
Well, thank you for having me here today. Again, as mentioned, my name is David Hazelwood. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for NeighborWorks Home Solutions here in Council Bluffs, Iowa, and Omaha, Nebraska. As mentioned earlier, we are a nonprofit organization, and I'm here today to share with you how our organization has partnered with Iowa Western Community College to build communities through education. And I'm having trouble switching the slide.
This is Melody. Would you like me to control the slides for you or turn over keyboard, mouse controls?
Go ahead and switch them for me, Melody.
Absolutely.
So giving a little overview of NeighborWorks Home Solution, our mission is to rekindle pride in neighborhoods by providing affordable housing choices that ignite investments in Omaha and the Council Bluffs communities that we serve. We've been very committed to building strong, vibrant neighborhoods and communities by providing economic and community development services with quality, energy efficient, and sustainable affordable housing. To kind of give you a little bit of overview of the construction technology program, as well as our educational partner, that construction program began in 1997, and it was designed to place students directly into the workforce upon completion of a one-semester certificate, a one-year diploma, or a two-year degree pathway. This program educates and trains students to be proficient in all of the phases of residential and commercial construction, as well as construction management. What's unique about this program, it provides students with knowledge and skills in energy efficiency, sustainable practices in construction, as well as promoting opportunities to learn and apply all phases of the industry through hands-on training. Which leads us to 8 years ago. 8 years ago, our local construction, if you'll switch that, Melody. 8 years ago, our local construction industry was experiencing a shortage in qualified workforce with no solution in sight. NeighborWorks agreed it was time to really think out of the box and see how we could better support the impact in the community and invest and establish a partnership to really address this crisis. At the time, Iowa Western had a construction technology program that was fully supported by the industry through its curriculum and hands-on training. What they was lacking was projects. Also, at the same time, our community had a large investment or an inventory of vacant lots and abandoned homes that cost the city in loss of tax revenue. The dilapidated homes and blighted properties plagued our neighborhoods across the city, and building new homes on these lots would not only provide much needed revenue for the city, it would give first-time home buyers and moderate to low-income residents access to affordable housing, which was really required at the time. The partnership was formed in 2011 with the Council Bluffs Community Development Department, our organization, and Iowa Western Community College. This collaboration gave the school's construction technology students the chance to build 2 houses each academic year, equipping them with valuable hands-on skills and broadening their networking and employment options. The City of Council Bluffs Development Department provided the building sites from its inventory of vacant lots, provided us with down payment assistance to home buyers, and in return, the city got stable homeowners who will maintain their homes and revitalize the neighborhoods, putting back into the city budgets. NeighborWorks' role, we would coordinate all the agency's works. We would fund the construction management oversight. We would market the properties. We would obtain qualified buyers. We would provide housing counseling through a HUD-approved external organization, and we would handle all of those sales through our local real estate agency that was supporting us. And every year, without exception, we were very blessed that each property has paid for itself and thus ensures the program's sustainability. The quality of work, innovation, technology, and products that go into the homes make them charming and highly marketable. The buyers benefited by providing their families a desirable home along with financial and personal stability. And local businesses, subcontractors, realtors, and lenders all benefited from the additional business and income. The benefits to NeighborWorks Home Solutions has been numerous. With the construction of 2 homes every year, we are turning more renters into buyers. We have also increased the number of partnerships and benefits exponentially. The Iowa West Foundation provides initial funding for construction. American National Bank offers follow-up construction loans to sustain the program's cash flow needs. NP Dodge Realtors donate the cost of the listing and brokerage fees and commissions for the sale of the homes, which in turn earmarked for additional construction technology scholarships. The students are perhaps the partnership's biggest beneficiaries. They learn that there is more to constructing a home than simply pounding a nail into a board. While building a real house, they are involved in all aspects of the construction process while working in real-world elements and uncertain conditions. They're taught the value of planning and cooperation while dealing with material suppliers and abundance of trade specialists, and knowing that the home is the buyer's first instills a sense of genuine pride and sense of community into our students. This collaboration has also provided our organization with invaluable and very informative experience. We've learned internally communication practices to meet the daily functional needs of the program, how to forge an annual reporting and evaluation schedule based on agreed measurable matrix. The most essential elements for our success include influential partnerships, down payment assistance, a practical hands-on teaching environment, and the city's unwavering support in securing properties for our endeavors. As you see here, these are some of the photos of our projects. Our partnership has allowed us to construct 14 single-family dwellings over an 8-year period. These projects have been constructed in blighted neighborhoods, on single lots, or in entire city blocks after registration or restoration has been completed. These residential homes have appraised values ranging from $135,000 to $175,000, with houses having anywhere from 1,200 to 1,400 square foot design. As you look at these different homes, you can see some of the different amenities that we include into our city as far as our models for affordable housing. On the next slide, please. You will see that, again, we've either gone into blighted neighborhoods or we are working in tandem with cities or other property owners to ensure that we are fitting our models into the community and not offsetting or increasing or decreasing the existing values of homes inside of that. The next one, please. We have recently, in the last 3 years, have purchased an old school that was in a blighted area that was run down and was ready to be demolished. And we've taken on that collaboration with the local community development department as well as some other funders, and was able to restore that entire property and plat that for 14 residential homes directly related to the educational opportunities for our students. And these homes are reflecting that there. We are running down to the end of the deadline. Our students will complete their 14th home by May 1st. As mentioned earlier in the previous presentation, it takes 9 months for our students to finish these homes to ensure that they are meeting their educational and learning needs on a day-to-day basis. If we could move on, please. And so I'm sure there's probably some questions available. If you have any additional questions after this presentation, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. We thank you for your time, and thank you.
Thanks, David. So if you could talk a little bit about how you incorporate the homebuyer education and counseling into your program with the people who buy these homes.
So our applicants go through a pretty detailed process, and as we are better preparing them for home ownership, we have we are collaborated with an organization in Omaha, Nebraska that provides that HUD-approved home counseling. And so they were required to take that counseling. It is a cost at them, and then we offset that cost in the sale of the home. And so they were better prepared to meet all of the criteria for the down payment assistance as well as some of the HUD regulations as we move forward in this process.
Okay, so we will go ahead and move to our third presenter before we take questions. There are a few questions, but we'll wait until the end. So our next presenter is Katie Batterby. She's the Director of Marketing and Philanthropy at NeighborWorks Great Falls in Montana, and she is going to tell us about their high school house program. Go ahead, Katie.
Okay, thank you. And do I have access to move the slides, or it doesn't seem that I do? So if you'll do that along with me.
I can turn over controls.
Okay.
1 moment.
Or actually,
All right,
okay.
give it a try.
All right. So I, like she said, I am the Director of Marketing and Philanthropy at NeighborWorks Great Falls. And so we are going to talk about our high school house program, which is similar to what the past people have mentioned, but with a little bit different, as we are, we have quite a few different programs. So if you want to go to the next slide, I'll kind of just talk about our organization. So we were established in go back one. We were established in 1980. So we will turn 40 years old next year. Our mission statement is to create strong neighborhoods and successful homeowners by developing and promoting quality, affordable housing. And so kind of an overview of the services that we provide. Obviously, we do the homeownership counseling, down payment assistance, other financial assistance to current homeowners as well. A lot of neighborhood revitalization through blight removal and new construction beyond just the high school house program. We have a self-help housing program in addition to that, and then we do a lot of community building programs with residents. So kind of a wide variety of services that all kind of go together. But so specifically the high school house program, it is a partnership with our Great Falls Public Schools District, and it provides new homes for residents with low to moderate incomes and gives high school students valuable employment skills. So we started this program in 1998. We're now on year 21 and house 41. We used to be able to do 2 houses per year, and we've unfortunately starting for the 2017-2018 house, we're only able to do 1. We're hoping to go back up to 2, but that decision is on the school district as far as their capacity with teachers and students. But for the last 20 years, we've been doing pretty much 2 houses per year, and again, hope to continue that going forward. So if you want to go to the next slide, just to kind of talk about what the program entails as far as what's being put on by the school and what portion kind of falls on NeighborWorks. So Great Falls Public Schools, they provide a high school house teacher, and unlike previous organizations, they actually build on site. So NeighborWorks Great Falls provides the lot, and so each they take out a portion of their day and go to the build site. The high school house teacher, that is his only job, which was a major factor in reducing to 1 house as opposed to 2, is kind of the payment of 2 teachers as opposed to 1. So that's a big portion of their commitment, as well as that trade class. It kind of started out as a normal woodshop class, in the 90s, and Dave Anderson, who was our construction manager in the 90s, was the spearhead of this entire program, and kind of how do we make that woodshop class more tangible for those students and more relevant to the real world. And that's kind of how it got kick-started. And so they still have the trades class. They have to do I know freshman and sophomore year, there's kind of the prep classes in order for them to be ready in their junior and senior year to actually build the house. So again, only juniors and seniors can actually build the house, but they do have to be prepared freshman and sophomore year. So it's quite a big commitment, but we do see quite a bit of interest in the class. And then they also have an interior design class. So the buildings trades class actually builds the house, and then as far as the finishes, that's kind of a case project for the interior design class. I know they do some other stuff, but that's kind of one student actually gets voted on, and those are the finishes that get to go into the house. So a big part of this, again, school board support and community support. It is, a big project, and it does, have an impact on the students. And so there's a lot of people that go into this decision. But again, we're on year 21, and so it's a pretty well-known program with great support as far as from the superintendent and from the students and from the teachers. And so basically kind of those bullet points take in a brief overview kind of the load of the Great Falls Public Schools District. As far as what NeighborWorks Great Falls does, so we are kind of the oversight, much like the other programs. We do the floor plans, we do the supervision of the project, we provide the lot, we arrange the subcontractors. So the students do most of the work, but as far as, electrical, plumbing, some of the foundation stuff, obviously, that's a little more technical. So we do have some subcontractors, and NeighborWorks finances that and arranges all of that for the students. So it is, a big portion of what we do, but that construction manager, again, he's not there every day. The teacher is the one kind of making sure the project moves along, but our construction manager is the one, overseeing that and making sure that they're on schedule and that they have everything that they need. And so that's kind of also where, we do all of the funding. We receive funding from, and I'll go over that later, a multitude of sources, but any donations that come through, those go through NeighborWorks Great Falls to be able to make this house a reality for the students. So then beyond, the construction of the house, it is sold through NeighborWorks Great Falls to a home buyer under 80% of our area median income. They utilize all of our housing counseling, options. And again, I'll go over that in just a little bit. And I'm actually, in addition to our marketing and philanthropy director, I also am a licensed realtor. So I represent the houses through NeighborWorks to be able to, sell those to one of our housing counseling clients. So as far as the benefits, they're kind of all around benefits. This is one of our most visual programs. It provides a lot of great press for us as far as, people talking about it and getting involved and wanting to be involved. But as far as, the benefits, I think the most obvious one is the students beyond, just learning how to build. This is real work experience. This is trade knowledge that they otherwise wouldn't have. I know 2 students last year. A lot of the time, the local construction companies will stop by the build throughout the year and just kind of check in. And 2 students last year, 2 seniors, actually had job offers before they graduated from local construction companies due to their work on this program. So I think it's really great for students. There are a lot of students that want to do, college and do something else, but there are a lot of people that that's not quite what they're looking for, and this is an outlet for them. I know Great Falls Public Schools also actually kind of tries to seek out students that, may be at risk for dropping out, may not have, much interest in traditional schooling, and they'll kind of, the counselors at the school will kind of tailor them to this program and try and get them in this program. As the marketing director, I hear a lot of stories from specifically, previous students a lot, but a lot of parents that this was the reason their kid went to school every day. This is the reason they, kept in school. And so the benefits to the students just are tremendous. And I think that's why we receive so much support for this program and why it's been such a successful program over the last 20 years. As far as benefits to NeighborWorks, it accomplishes our mission of improving neighborhoods and creating affordable housing and also partnering to provide positive impact. We try and focus in our kind of downtown neighborhood, which has a lot of blight that needs kind of some updating. So not only does it, and again, that goes to the community benefits, it improves the neighborhood. There's a new home on a vacant lot or a previously blighted lot, and it really does a lot for the neighbors. Our house this year, 3 houses on the block have started improvements since the high school house started building. So we see that year after year, and it's a great benefit to the community, but also to NeighborWorks as far as what we're looking to accomplish in these neighborhoods. And then the home buyers, obviously, you know, there's only one or two if we can do 2 houses per year. But it's a new house for, you know, a household of limited means. So it's a house that probably they wouldn't be able to be in that situation if it weren't for this program. And so it's a really great asset for them as well. So the connection with homeownership counseling, as I mentioned, these photos are some of the buyers of our high school houses. They have to attend our homebuyer education class. They also have to do an individualized appointment with our homeownership counselor. One is required. Some of them meet with her more than that, just to kind of plan and budget for the, you know, tasks that they're about to undertake. Again, the funding that we receive requires the homebuyers to be under 80% area median income. And so most of them need our deferred second mortgages or down payment assistance. And so that's a big piece of, you know, why they're, you know, coming to these appointments, but also it's required. But then it, you know, again, like I said, it brings a lot of awareness to NeighborWorks Great Falls programs, regardless of if they actually purchase the high school house or not. Just the awareness of, you know, the house being sold through NeighborWorks and the home buyer being a NeighborWorks home buyer and utilizing the resources that we have. Again, it's just great marketing for us and brings a lot of positive awareness to us and also the school district. And so lastly, and probably most importantly, program funding. So, you know, the big piece of, you know, the under 80% area median income is we receive, and we can't count on this one much anymore, but we for a long time received community block development block grant funding, which is provided by the city through HUD. And so that helps out with some of the cost on this house. We've looked into using home dollars in the future if CDBG is not an option. We receive foundation gifts, community donations, again, because of the benefits and because of the successful nature of this program. You know, it's just a really easy program to kind of put out there, and it's a really easy program for people to get behind. And so we do see a good amount of donations come in for this project, as well as in-kind labor and materials from local businesses. So usually we, you know, either break even, we've made a few dollars on these houses. Just this year, we've had to use helical piers on the house, which if anyone knows anything about those, they're very expensive. So this is the first year that we'll actually lose a little bit on the house. But again, you know, with some of the other services that we provide, we're able to make it work just as the benefit to the students and of the house. So those are kind of the main sources of funding that make this program work. And this is that bottom photos, this year's house. And we'll have our open house in May. They start in September and will end in May. We do a big groundbreaking celebration, which are some of the other photos, and then we do a big open house. So again, utilizing the marketing portion and making sure people are aware of the good work that's being done is a great opportunity for us and for the students and for the school district and any other donors involved. And so there's a lot of community partnership that make this happen, and to recognize that and to make sure that, you know, we can continue this is really important. So I think that's my last slide. I don't know if we're going to go over questions or.
Well, thanks, Katie. That was great. So, Melody, do we have questions?
Yes, we have a few. I will ask people that when they submit questions, if they can say when, you know, which speaker they're directing the question to. But our first question is this program similar to Youth Build? If not, what are the key differences? And I think that was to our first speaker.
This is Cheryl. I am not familiar with a Youth Build program here locally, so I would say ours is not similar to that.
Okay. Thank you. The second question, who bears the burden of liability in this project using students and minors?
I can touch that.
I'm sorry.
This is Katie. I'll just say what we do. You know, the school has their own liability, but we have, through, you know, our owner built and self-help program, and then the other volunteers, you know, we do have builder's risk insurance, we have liability insurance, and then we have volunteer insurance as well. So I think it relies on both parties, but we're pretty well covered as far as, you know, we don't have those insurances just for this program. We utilize them in other programs as well, but that's kind of where we stand.
That's the same for Salisbury as well.
That's the same for
okay.
Iowa Western.
Okay, great, thanks. The third question is, how much is the cost to move a house?
For Salisbury, it costs about $10,500 to move the house.
Okay, and this is Melody. Oh, this is Melody.
I have
just
a question
jumping
regarding that. Is there a reason that you guys can't build on site, or is it just easier for you guys to move it?
It's a restriction with the Wicomico County Board of Education. The students are not allowed to leave the property, the school property.
Okay, this is Melody. Regarding the cost to move a house, would you say that is a too high a cost or lower than average, or how does that play out?
It's been the same price since 2000 when they started, so they have not increased the price to move the house for us.
Okay, great, thanks. Our next question. For the second speaker, are there community college students, are the community college students the ones purchasing the homes, or are they sold to any low-income residents?
They're sold to any low-income residents. We have had a couple of community college students that was interested, and just unfortunately the process fell through for them. That would kind of been a huge capstone to our program if that would have ever happened.
Okay, great. That's it for questions. I think all the speakers were really substantive, and if anyone had any questions, it was answered during the presentation. So thanks, guys, for your really good PowerPoints and explanation of your programs. Oop, I just got another question. For the Salisbury, does the moving cost include setup?
So once the house is moved to the lot, it's left on the I-beams, and the footers are dug prior to the house being moved. So house is moved on top of the footers, then the mason comes back in and builds the foundation up underneath the house. At that point, the house moving company comes back and removes the I-beams and lowers the house down onto the permanent foundation, and the straps are fixed to the foundation to the house.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. That was terrific. Boy, I do not want to be the person who moves a house in the neighborhoods. That must be a high-skilled job. One can understand how difficult it is, and certainly occasionally get to see them, and it's quite a project. So let's move on quickly. We got just a couple quick notes at the end. So we have this wonderful project, A Picture's Worth 1,000 Words, that Ellie's been heading up, and the idea is we would like you to let us know about good pictures that you've got permission to share, that we can use to, one, highlight on Monday morning, so you have a little flash of a fun picture to look at, but that ultimately might be able to use for other outreach efforts, things like that, that would help promote housing counseling in the field. And we are, the whole idea is it needs to tell a story without having a lot of words. So this picture's obvious, and we've had a variety of others as well. So thank you to everybody who's submitted so far, but please, if you haven't, go through your old files. It's fine if it's an old one from years ago, as long as you have permission to share the image. We're very interested in this and would love to try to build up a kind of a library of pictures that could be useful for our work. And Ellie's also been posting these on the Facebook page, and we'll think about other ways we can provide some life and recognition for these. But meant to be little high point in your Monday morning, and also a useful thing for our work going forward.
Can I add
So-
something, Bruce?
Oh, please do.
Just quickly. So I want to add on, you know, Bruce and Melody both spoke earlier about the importance of the work that they're doing with the legislators to increase the funding. And they mentioned, you know, Bruce mentioned that it's great, you know, they do great work, but it's really most meaningful when an individual organization that provides services in that lawmaker's district really is there to talk about what they're doing. You know, I'll say that on top of that, if there's a story about a constituent in their district that has benefited from services, that has an incredible impact. So these pictures are also helping us to create a sort of library where we can reach out to say, hey, this was a great picture you submitted. We'd love to tell this story.
Nice. And so send your images to Ellie. Don't send them to the list. She'll handle when they come out and all that. But really helpful. Good. So quick reminder about joining NHRC. If you haven't, we've already had 4 new groups sign up in the last 2 months. So that's thank you. Glad to have you in. And we have a whole rash of groups that are renewing their membership dues. So this is great. We still have the credit report discount program, which seems to be going quite smoothly. I haven't heard any complaints. I've heard a few, boy, this has been a good deal comments. So it sounds like this is going well. So please feel free, if you're not in the fold yet, to join and take advantage of it. I would love to have you as a member, and it does move our work forward and is increasingly valuable in our work, especially around the lobbying work that we do, because membership dues is the most flexible funding source we can have. With that quick note, our next call will be May 2nd. So we'll love to have you there. And then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ellie, it's the second call in May where we'll have people from National Capacity talking about the Asian Pacific Islander work that to help us understand in a population that's growing, the fastest growing segment of population in the United States. And what we want to do is, a few years ago, we had a presentation by Jane Duong from National Capacity, and the idea was to talk a little bit about housing, what housing counselors should know about working with Asian and Pacific Island populations, both on the complexity and cultural issues that many of us may not be as aware of as we could be. So the idea is they're going to put together a panel of to really help us understand and be more mindful and effective in our communication and counseling. So Ellie, that's the second leaders call in May. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, good. So that'd be the 16th. All right. Well, good. Thanks everybody for a good call, and we'll talk to you in early May. Thanks. Bye.